This is Viterbi Voices, your chance to hear stories about research, classes, student life, and more.
Directly from our students, faculty, and other members of our engineering community. All right here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back into Viterbi Voices. My name is Paul Ledesma, Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
And my name is Audrey Roberts. I'm a senior studying mechanical engineering here at USC.
Audrey, it's here. It's the end of the year.
Yes.
Going into finals, 2021, still in a pandemic. What are your thoughts right now?
Gosh, yeah, so I think this is a fitting episode for this time of year. Sorry to jump right into the episode, but my thoughts right now, I think align well with the episode. So this was kind of a series of interviews combined together I did with all the other seniors who are Viterbi Student Ambassadors. So we did a lot of reflecting on the past 4 years. And our experiences, and definitely one thing that struck me is just how different all of us had. Like, all of our experiences are so different, but there's definitely common threads.
Well, every senior class, no matter what, it's really kind of interesting. Not to say you don't have it hard. You're in a really unique situation, but every senior class always gets to this point of like melancholy and bittersweet. Like, I don't know how to feel. I'm supposed to be like crazy, but I'm just kind of tired. Like, I'm kind of like done. And the pandemic, I think, increases those feelings of melancholy and bittersweet feelings.
Totally. Yeah, I think, it's a strange feeling. I think we kind of get to this episode, but I honestly wanted to talk more just about these people than the pandemic. But I agree. I think it's a strange feeling with like school ending, just since we haven't, been in person for over a year, where it's, people were kind of joking around, you log off of Zoom on your last day of class. It just doesn't feel like something's really ending, because we've talked about this before, but it's kind of been just a slow burn to the end. So I do think we're feeling tired, and I'm feeling tired. But I think, in this episode in particular, there's a lot we all learned from this year for sure as well. I think personally, like in terms of our personal growth, but then looking back to the 4 years too, it's kind of fun to sort of think back to all the stuff we enjoyed, and definitely advice we kind of all hinted at in light of the past years. Kind of do the things you want to do when you want to do them, instead of, I think there were so many things that we talked about, like, oh, we'll do that senior year. And then, didn't really have the opportunity to do that this year. So to any incoming freshmen, I would say, in light of this episode and in light of my experience as well, I would say, if you're interested in a club, just join it. It doesn't matter what you think it'll look like or whatever. Or if you want to go try a new restaurant, go try it, because it might close because of the pandemic, which has so many restaurants in LA closed. It's very sad. But I hope new ones are opening too, so that's exciting. And yeah, just spend time with the people you like and do the things you like. And if you do that, you'll be totally fine.
So who's on this episode? Who are we about to listen to?
Oh gosh, everyone. So Sheetal, Dominie, Christina, Steven. I'm like going through our whole senior class. Miranda's on there. Cami. Yes, I love talking to Cami, because we've had kind of like similar high school experience.
Yeah, similar trajectories.
Yeah, which is fun to talk to. Luz, how could I forget?
Luz? You forgot? Yeah, Luz, absolutely. Luz is all of the fixtures on the podcast. Yes. Luz is definitely one of them.
She's incredible, and we're both moving to Seattle, which is super exciting.
Cool. USC North. We're gonna start calling Seattle USC North.
That's all of us. Christina, Steven, Cami, Dominie, Luz, Sheetal, Miranda. Yeah, so it was super fun to get to chat with everyone one last time. I think it was like kind of therapeutic for all of us.
Awesome. Well, why don't you let you take it away and take these seniors through their final farewells.
First, I spoke with Dominie, who's graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Engineering.
Yeah, so I'm Dominie. I am a senior studying biomedical engineering with a minor in classical perspectives, and I'm from Kahului, Hawaii.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm super excited to have you here. And but I guess just to start, how are you? We have like 4 weeks of school left.
I know it's crazy how quickly time has passed within the past year, but also just in the past 4 years. I'm feeling it's kind of what you would expect, probably definitely bittersweet. On the one hand, I am really sad to be leaving undergrad because undergrad was definitely the best 4 years of my life so far. I feel like there's so many things that I did that I never thought I would do or never even knew about before I came to college. And the diversity of experience you're just not going to get elsewhere, after you graduate. So I'm sad about that. I'm also sad about my friends. I've made really, really good friends over the past 4 years. And I'm really sad that we're going to all be going to separate places after we graduate. But then, so that's like the sad part. But then the sweet part is I feel like at this point I am ready to move on. I'm a little tired of all these undergraduate classes, a little burnt out, I think, as they call it, senioritis. So I am looking forward to moving on to another stage of my life.
And I'm curious, so you talked about kind of just being able to do a lot in your past 4 years. Like, what were some of the highlights for you?
Oh, highlights. One is definitely my research. I started research in Zavleta Lab my freshman year. I stayed for a summer after my freshman year, and I've been in the lab ever since. And I was really able to, it was actually a unique situation because Professor Zavleta was new to USC when I was new to USC. So I was involved with actually moving her lab into the Michelson Center, which was also new that year. The Michelson Center for Convergent Bioscience is a huge building dedicated to all research that is trying to solve our most pressing health challenges. And so I was involved with actually starting the lab and then, contributing to the very first few publications of the lab. And that will always be memorable, I think, as far as just my academic development, but also Professor Zavleta is such a huge mentor for me and has such a huge impact on my career path. Like, I really want to do research in the future. So that's a memorable part. I would say studying abroad in Paris is also really memorable. I studied abroad the summer after my sophomore year. And I studied abroad with like 40 Viterbi engineering students. We were in Paris for 7 weeks. And it was the best summer of my life. And this was obviously pre-COVID. And I lived like 7 minutes from the Eiffel Tower, and we could just explore the city because we only had school, I think 9 to 1, Monday through Thursday. So we had so much time to just see everything in Paris. We had a whole bucket list, and I think we checked everything off. But I never learned so much about art, the Impressionists. And I'm not an artist myself, but I actually really enjoy art history. And so that was a really cool part of myself and my interest that I got to fully dive into in Paris. So those two come to mind immediately when you ask the question.
That's awesome. And I think one of the kind of threads in just what we've talked about so far is like the people you've met and the relationships you've made, whether it be in research in Paris and your classes. I guess, can you just sort of reflect on that and what those mean for you? I think especially now as we get ready to sort of leave an environment where those might come more naturally here than in the next phase. But yeah, just what do those relationships mean to you?
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing about college, which I don't know if this was the same for you, Audrey, but I think there's an arc in relationships and friendships. I feel like freshman year, you become friends with a lot of people just by pure proximity. They live by you. You just are going through like new student welcome events with them. And I think those friends were really fun to hang out with. But a lot of them I didn't keep in touch with, and I didn't maintain really friendships with until and I think sophomore and junior year is when I really got to know people in my major and my involvements. So my like the student org, ASPME, or the Associated Students of Biomedical Engineering I'm involved with. And then my major, that's when I really got to develop more deep friendships with people and relationships. And those, I think, honestly, a lot of those I think will last through, past college, past when we graduate. I'm really thankful for them because I think, especially with engineering, it's a hard major. So having those friends to be there not only to support and help you through those like hard problem sets and hard exams, but also just socially making sure you have a balance between work and fun. So yeah, that's as far as friendships go. I think I'm really grateful for Viterbi's like community, and I feel like regardless of whether they're close friends or not, I've always found people to be really collaborative. And then I think also relationships beyond just friendships. There's a lot of relationships you make with people who can be really good connections in the future. There's so many people like you, Audrey, you're going off to Microsoft, and there's so many people that are going off to all these different industries, and you never know in the future when you'll want to connect with someone from an industry, or you have someone that that needs a job, and you just have this huge, as they call it, Trojan network. So I think there's two like layers of relationships that will last into the future.
If you can remember from kind of coming into USC from high school, like what your expectations were versus like now looking back, what the experience was. I feel like sometimes we go into college with like, I want to get X, Y, and Z done. Like, did you do X, Y, and Z? And like, what else did you do? What did you not do? I'm just interested to sort of see what that's like for you.
Yeah, I think coming to college, I thought I knew I wanted to do research because that's something I'd never really done in high school, and it's something that I was interested in trying. So I knew research, that's for sure. But I was actually really interested in like rehabilitation research, sports research, because I played soccer all throughout my life before college, and I was interested in sports injuries and how we can engineer like tissues or different rehabilitative methods to help athletes, but I ended up just not doing that at all and ended up discovering a real like love and interest for imaging, and that's the research I do. And so that was a huge like pivot for me as far as what I thought I was going to be doing in college, and then what I ended up doing and ended up loving, and that's what I actually want to do for my career. So that was a pivot. I think I did not expect to be so involved. Again, like I said, in high school, I just did soccer. I didn't really do much else because soccer really took up all my time. And I didn't expect to be so involved with, being an ambassador for the engineering school, being really involved with the executive board for the Associated Students of Biomedical Engineering. I was doing community service stuff with the Society of Women Engineers. I'm a TA for a biomedical engineering class. So just all these different involvements I just did not expect. I didn't know that they existed, first of all, and I didn't expect to like really keep myself super busy during college.
That's awesome. So I think pivoting a little bit, obviously I know the past year and counting now at this point has been, just unbelievably challenging for everyone. But I think, so I know that could be an obvious answer to this question, but looking back at your 4 years, like what were some of the challenges you faced, maybe outside of COVID and then during COVID as well?
Yeah, I think one of my biggest challenges was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I had so many dilemmas on whether I wanted to do medical school or not, because I came into college not being pre-med. I thought I'm going to just go with biomedical engineering, see where that takes me. And if medicine or medical school falls into my path along the way, I will, we'll see. But it really got me stressed in my first 3 years of college, because when you're BME, you still have to take a couple extra courses, and you have to have things in the back of your mind, like the MCAT, if you do want to go to medical school. So for me, it was always like, I need to make a decision on whether I am going to medical school or not. I need to make a decision. It needs to be fast, and I need to have a really, really compelling reason why I'm going to make this decision. And it ended up just happening like really organically. I just decided the summer after my sophomore year that I was going to do it. I was really wanting to help patients, but I also felt like medical school was really necessary for me to do the kind of work and make the impact that I wanted in the health field. But it was not like a moment. Like, I wouldn't say it was like a particular moment where I was like, yes, medical school. It just kind of happened. I just kind of decided on it. And if I could go back and tell my freshman self, I would say, don't stress. And I actually had this conversation with Paul Ledesma. Actually, it was really funny. And even he said, sometimes you have to just let your experiences dictate your path. You just have to seek out different experiences and let those experiences dictate what you want to do, instead of you trying to plan experiences in order to do what you want to do. So that was honestly a big challenge for me, and something that I overcame. I think now in my senior year, I feel pretty certain about what I want to do.
Yeah. What were some of the challenges, the biggest challenges for you over the past year? And I'd like to kind of break it up, maybe like, first, the things we were talking about before that were so important to you: research, your peers, your mentors. What were the challenges maintaining those when like life just like shifted?
Yeah, so I think there was definitely challenges in trying to, because I didn't see my friends, right, for so long. I didn't see my friends really. I stayed home for most of my first semester of my senior year, so last semester. So I didn't really get to really see my friends until this semester. And so that was like almost a full year of not seeing the people that I had gotten so close to. So that was difficult. I would say just like the lack of, or just not being able to go onto campus and see people in passing and have these little conversations throughout the day, be able to bike around campus and just be around people who are also just studying or being super busy, just that, like, I don't know, that energy and that, just the energy, like it's definitely hard to do school without it. Like during finals, for example, everyone around campus would be studying. And so because everyone's studying and everyone's dying, everyone's getting Starbucks, everyone's like hunkering down in Levy or whatever, maybe it was like motivating. And I feel like doing online school, you don't have that motivating factor. So I think for me, that was hard, along with just not being able to see my friends. I think both of those were hard. I think one of the things that COVID did in general is it brought to the forefront problems, me going into health, like health, how public health works, as far as it's not just the disease, and it's not just the vaccine, but it's also the government, right? And all of the regulation and all of the distribution of these treatments and these vaccines, like just realizing how much of it is like politics and government. As a person who's going into health, that was important. And then, for us, we're doing like our entrepreneurship project on food insecurity, and food insecurity is something I admittedly have not really thought about as a topic, but also as an issue until the pandemic, I think, really shed light on how enormous this issue is, not just for people who are homeless or people who really go through like bouts of starvation, but also just for people who can't get access to any sort of healthy food. So just things like that. I think COVID illuminated certain things about our society that we need to address. And as a person in college, I think you're primed to really absorb all of it.
Looking back on your 4 years, is there anything you wish you would have done that you didn't do?
Oh, that's hard. Actually, one thing I will say I wanted to do, and I think I just got so involved with the Viterbi community that I didn't get a chance to, is I really like to write and read. I did take a minor in classical perspectives, which more broadly put, it's the study of ancient Greece and Rome. And so that's was an outlet for me to really explore my creative writing, or just my writing and my thinking about the humanities and what it means to be human. But I kind of wish I got involved with something extracurricular that was the humanities, or something different from engineering. I feel like a lot of my involvements were engineering.
What are you hoping to do with your degree after graduating? I guess, what are your interests now that you have had these 4 years to develop them?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, medical school, but I would say my biomedical engineering background, and I say background because it's both my major, but also what I was involved with extracurricularly as a biomedical engineering student, really shaped my interest within medicine. So yes, I really want to help patients and care for patients and make sure that they're returning to a life worth living. But I also really want to push things forward. I feel like as a biomedical engineer, you're really about, okay, this is the current method of doing it, but how can we make things better? Like what are some problems that the clinic or patients or doctors are facing, and how can we make it easier for them, or how can we make it so that they don't have to go through certain obstacles. And so I think that mindset of a biomedical engineering major has shaped what I want to do in the future, which is I'm applying to both MD programs and as well as MD PhD programs. So I guess for context, MD is the 4 years. It's the typical, what you think of as medical school. MD PhD is like 7 to 8 years. You get both an MD and a PhD, meaning that you do the MD curriculum, but you also do research for 3 to 4 years. And so the reason why I'm doing that is because I really love research, as I kind of mentioned, and I really want to do that in the future. Like I really want to help patients, but I also want to do research and figure out how we can make things better and improve current methods. So tying my engineering background and my research background and my interest in helping patients and medicine, I feel like that's exactly what has shaped what I want to do. So I hope to work at like an academic, a research hospital in the future, an academic institution where I could do both, do research, do some clinical work, and then also maybe teach medical students.
That's awesome. Last question, just what advice would you give to people starting college?
Oh, man. I would say time goes fast. I know that's been said many times, but it really does go fast. And I think a lot of people coming from high school, they feel like, oh, once I start something, I can't quit. It's not right to quit. You have to stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've always championed is this idea that in college, you only have 4 years, and you only have 4 years to do what you want to do. So do as much as you can, like go and get involved as much as you can and try out new things. And if you don't like it, don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Turn your attention to something else, because like I said, you only have limited time in your day, and you want to really spend it on the things that are meaningful to you. And I would also recommend that for pre-med students as well, because I know sometimes pre-med students think they have to check off a box and they have to do all these things, but I think what matters in the end and what you can talk about to other people and convey about your experiences is things that really like touched you, or things that made you really grow and think outside of yourself. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Next, I spoke with Sheetal, who is graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering.
So my name is Sheetal. I'm a senior. I'm studying chemical engineering with an emphasis in sustainable energy, and I have a minor in political science. Originally, I'm from Guangzhou, China, so I'm an international student here at USC.
First up, just looking back sort of on kind of what you did. Yeah, what did you do the past 4 years? What are the things you're involved in at USC?
Yeah, for sure. Oh God, there's so much, which I think is wonderful, but it is nice to sometimes take a bit of a stroll back and think, I did do a bunch of really interesting, different, cool things. I guess some of my biggest involvements have been, I was really a big part of the Model UN team here at USC for a couple of years, really involved in leadership there. I did research. I've worked in 3 different labs, so kind of bounce around between nanotechnology, environmental engineering, and most recently environmental policy. So those were kind of 2 of my really big involvements. Obviously, I'm a Viterbi Student Ambassador, which has been wonderful. And this past year, I was also a freshman academy coach. So I helped instruct a class for first-year engineering students, which was really rewarding, especially, in the context of an online year where a lot of them are really struggling with the social elements of college. Aside from that, we all dabble in other things. I joined Engineers Without Borders one semester. I joined a US-China publication another semester. I interned abroad, just kind of all over the place, really.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I have to ask, what was it like being a freshman academy coach, like online? Because it's your first year too, right?
Exactly. So luckily I didn't have anything to compare it to, I think. So I didn't so much, think about it as, oh, it's not going to be as good as in person, because I really didn't have that as a reference point, which made it a little bit easier. In terms of how it went, I think it was very rewarding. Going to class 2 hours a week with like 30 freshmen was the highlight of my work week every single week. And it was just really rewarding to be able to hear how they were growing, how they were adjusting to college, trying to help them through what's an uncharacteristically difficult first year of college. A lot of my students were really struggling with making friends, with keeping up with coursework, with staying motivated, and I really felt like being in that position, I was able to make a real impact in their lives and, be a support system that, as a senior, like I kind of wish I had as a mentor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. You've done a lot at USC. What are the highlights for you? What experiences are going to stick with you and impact you going forward?
Yeah, so definitely I would say Freshman Academy is one of them. It really reminded me, I think, that, being a mentor, being an educator is something that I feel really passionately about. I interned at a summer school the summer after my freshman year, and I hadn't really done anything super educational or instructional since. And getting back into the Freshman Academy reminded me that this is something I really want to pursue at some point in my life. And then another major highlight I would say has to be Model United Nations. Sounds incredibly nerdy. Did not think I'd be involved in it on a collegiate level. I didn't know that was something people did at college. But it really, I think, has formed the basis of a lot of my understanding of myself as a person and what my interests are going forward. Coming in as an engineer, I really had no idea what I wanted to do with that. I just knew that I liked science and that was about it. And Model UN was really, I think, what solidified the fact that I love policy and I like international relations, and that there is a confluence between those things that people aren't really looking into. And that's, eventually what I want to be able to do with my life is work with STEM and policymakers and, work towards creating international climate policy.
One thing that kind of struck out to me, you said that was, I didn't expect to do that in college. Thinking back for yourself and comparing, what were your expectations of college of USC versus kind of what it actually was?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's so interesting to think about, you know, your expectations versus what you've turned out to enjoy. And I think there's kind of two factors to that. So number one, when I was in high school, before I decided to apply to engineering school, I was dead sure I wanted to be a lawyer. My mother said, are you sure you want to be a lawyer, or have you just been watching a lot of lawyer TV recently? And I said, that's a really good point. I don't know. So I turned away from that. I figured, let me get a degree in engineering, and that seems to be something that's a little bit more flexible than law. And then, I'll see where I go from there. And I think what's really funny to me is, 4 years on, I've done my engineering degree, learned a lot, and I'm almost right back where I started. I want to go into policy. So I think that's something that I found really surprising and kind of interesting. Definitely did not think I'd do a turnaround after 4 years, but here I am. And then the other thing is, I think I have a bit of a unique experience in how I decided to come to USC. I never toured campus before committing. I did all of my kind of interviews and all my research virtually. I was international. It didn't really make sense to fly here for that. And so when I committed to USC and, when I showed up for orientation over the summer, I had no idea what to expect. It was really a leap of faith. I said, sounds cool. Los Angeles is sunny. I've heard they have great food. I'm sure it'll be fine. And so when I came to campus, I was, pleasantly surprised for sure. But I think what that also meant was that I didn't come in necessarily with a list of things I wanted to try. I truly was just open to all of it. And admittedly, that has its drawbacks too. I feel like I didn't really know what I wanted out of my college experience academically until my junior year, when I kind of narrowed down what my interests were in the field. And so, a lot of my first 2 years was just trying different things and being like, okay, like, I don't love this. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really get to what I loved until my junior year. So definitely, pros and cons, but for the most part, everything really was a surprise.
That's awesome. And I guess just like, what do you love? And I think, oftentimes when we ask this question, it's like, what do you want to do like professionally? But just like, what have you learned you like from college,
Yeah. I mean, I think what's interesting is some people come into college and they have a passion, right? And they go, this is what I want to do with my life. This is a cause I want to dedicate my life to. How you go about doing that might change. Maybe you go from being an engineer to being a business major and you approach it from a different lens. I didn't have that entering college. I really, did not feel like anything particularly was something that I, would fight for, in a professional sense. And I kind of fell into the environmental sector a little bit. I had heard about it from a couple people I knew. I was like, okay, I'll check it out. Maybe I'll be interested. And I realized that it's something that, has always played a role in my life, whether I knew it or not. Like I grew up, around a lot of pollution, a lot of like environmental injustice that I really never stopped to think about, even though I knew it was happening. And I think in the last year, especially reflecting on that, I've managed to kind of see how that interest for me came together with all these little things that I just hadn't put together before. And so I guess what I love, what I'm passionate about is climate action, climate justice, kind of how we can work to create a more equitable world where we're treating each other as humans, but also like nature and the earth with more respect. And like I said, never ever thought this would be something that would draw my attention in the way that it has. But I guess you never really know where your passions lie until you stumble across them in a random internship the way I did.
What are you hoping to do after graduation? What are kind of your interests going forward? And again, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be just professionally, but.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think good clarification that doesn't have to just be professionally. I think that's something we forget about a lot, especially as engineers. You go like, where did you intern? What job did you do? Yeah. And you're like, well, what about everything else I really like?
Yeah.
So that's a really good question in that sense. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be staying in LA for at least the foreseeable future. I will be working in air quality consulting. So working with companies and government agencies to reduce their greenhouse emissions, which is very exciting. Don't know very much about it yet. So probably going to learn a lot on the job, as we do. But I mean, I think the way I think about the next couple of years and what I want out of them is I want to be able to learn more about the field, I think, in a very hands-on way. Because, I'm not an environmental engineering major, so I definitely didn't engage with that as much in my classes as I maybe would have liked to. So definitely learning more about the actual subject matter. And then also, I think, I don't know, I feel like something I wish I had been a little bit more involved in while I was at USC is serving the community and, giving back to the wider Los Angeles community. And I'm really excited to be staying in LA because I feel like that is a chance for me to rectify that a little bit, get more involved with volunteering, get more involved with advocacy. Something I've been involved in recently, for example, is I've been doing some work with the LA mayor's office where, it's been really interesting to hear about what local leaders are getting up to in the climate sector. And I guess I didn't realize there's this whole other world of making an impact out there that I'd never really engaged with. So I think that those are kind of the two main things looking forward to this next year that I'm excited about.
Next, I spoke with Cami, who's graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering.
I am Cami Amin. I'm a senior studying electrical and computer engineering with a minor in dance from Orlando, Florida.
Looking back on your 4 years, what were the things you were involved in at USC? What were what were you up to the past 4 years here?
Yeah, wow. I started out being really involved in campus activity. I was an orientation advisor. That's been my favorite job ever. And then I got to be an undergraduate TA and I taught linear algebra for a year and a half, which was really fun. And then I got to do a lot of research with that same faculty and graph signal processing. And then kind of outside of school stuff, I was really involved in IEEE. I still am part of their executive board doing professional stuff for electrical engineers and computer engineers. And outside of that, I'm really involved in the arts. I'm part of the Chamber Ballet Company still. We take online Zoom classes. And yeah, I just, in my free time, will paint to de-stress.
So accomplished. And I guess, so we kind of got the rundown on everything you did. What were kind of the highlights? What are the things that you did that'll continue to have an impact on you after you graduate?
Honestly, being an orientation advisor was probably such peak USC. You have to be peak USC spirit. You have to kind of know everything about the campus, and to kind of be that first student that these are admitted students get to talk to and help them make their course plan and be this is good teachers and these are maybe harder classes that you could take as a freshman. That experience is so rewarding and I love it because I still see people that I was their orientation advisor for and they're doing good. Maybe they switched their major or something like that, but for sure peak USC experience.
That's awesome. And then kind of on the flip side, what were some of the challenges you think over the past 4 years?
Well, COVID was definitely probably everyone's biggest challenge with school. And I definitely think kind of getting to upper division classes and having to buckle down for the coursework was probably my biggest challenge because there was so much I wanted to do outside of school. And I had to start making decisions about where I was going to spend my time. And a lot of times I had to pick school over fun things. So that was just a learning experience for me.
Is there anything you wish you would have done, and not necessarily a regret, but just, is there anything you feel like you would have done if you had another year or something?
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate that I kind of do have another year here. Well, it's definitely grad school, so it's very different than what I could have been able to do junior or senior year. I don't know. I feel there's just a lot of opportunities too that the school, events and shows, and I would have gone and seen more, I don't know, musicals or something.
I've been thinking about that a lot too. That was one of my favorite parts about USC was going to Kaufman senior show, going to Thornton senior show, or speakers coming. And I feel I did go to what I could, but you just don't have access to stuff like that once you're not an undergrad anymore. Although I think you can go next year. So
yeah, I'll I'll just pretend I'm an undergrad and still go to these things.
That's awesome. And I guess kind of on the topic, what impact do you think, I think you're definitely someone who all 4 years you like really stuck with like arts is like such a central part of your identity. What impact do you think that's had on you just as a person and also as an engineer?
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of hard to quantify because it's like I can't really think of myself without the arts in my life. So like I don't know. I don't know what it'd be like if I didn't go down that path. But I think dance especially has been like such this like pure and guiding force at USC because I've never had to be like very good at it. It was just a pure like love thing because that's kind of how dance minors work. You just do it because you love it. And to kind of have that and like have a kind of judgment-free space to do something you love is like such a like healing thing to have, especially if you're coming after like a physics midterm that didn't go so well, or like, you know, like classes are really hard and then kind of you have that kind of just pure love. And I think because I had that, it made me like less jaded as an engineering student because it can get really hard. And I know, especially my friends in EE, like a lot of it was like, do I want to do this when I could be doing maybe computer science and I wouldn't have to be taking, you know, it becomes that those kind of questions. And I think that because I had this kind of other thing going on, that EE didn't consume me in the way that I've seen it consume other people. So I'm definitely grateful for that. I also think like as an engineer, I've been thinking a lot about this in terms of like, what does it mean to be a good engineer? And like what companies are looking for and what PhD programs are looking for. And I think that a lot of what companies and people preaching are like, oh, like we want diverse applicants, we want diverse like thinkers. And I think dance has really, and arts in general has really provided that for me in a way that like I don't know how else people would get it. Like the creativity, the like how you have to force yourself to be out of the box, like that's like a purposeful thing of like improvisation and like you want to be different. And I think engineering maybe doesn't always teach that because it's so much of like this is how things have been done. So I think I'm very grateful for like the mindset that comes with it.
I'm also curious, like, did you always want to be an engineer or did you consider pursuing the arts as a profession?
I'd love to ask you this question too.
That choice, but just like, did you always want to be an engineer?
Yeah. No, I mean, the short answer is no, not at all. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to direct and produce movies. That was like what I said all through middle school. Then I went to performing arts high school for that. And then I was like, oh, actually, I want to do animation. And then I got to like my junior year of high school and that you have to take the PSAT and they make you like choose like what you're interested in on the boxes. And like, I just couldn't do movies. And I like realized that like what I was doing in school was like taking out all the fun of what I loved about drawing and movies. And I could not see myself like living a life where my job slowly sucks the fun out of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, I have to pick something else. And I ended up picking engineering because I was like, I've always liked math and science. Like it's never been something that I was like, oh, I don't like, I just didn't like see myself in that space. And that's why I also think inclusion is so important because I was just like, oh, maybe I'm doing as well as people who identify as like being in engineering world, but I personally like, couldn't see myself in that space.
Yeah.
So I ended up just choosing it and being like, well, I can transfer.
After these 4 years, what are you interested in now? Like, what do you like to do now as like a senior in college?
Yeah, I feel like it is similar to being a senior in high school and you're trying to like pick your major and like what are you gonna do? But it's like scarier because you have to be like, oh, who is going to pay me?
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think I'm really struggling with that, honestly. And I look at other seniors and I'm jealous because everyone like knows what they're doing. But I kind of have another year left to figure it out. And I think right now I'm like pursuing this research track and getting a PhD in like double E, but then applying it to art and kind of using signal processing to like authenticate and analyze like fine art. Just because then I could kind of merge things I care about. But it's also such an overwhelming thing to be like, I'm signing over 6 years of my life to this. I'm not going to be making as much money. It's going to be much harder than if I like kind of signed on with the company. And I've loved working at Universal. So it's like, what is the right choice for me is kind of a hard question to know at this point. Maybe in 5 years, I'll know what the right choice was, but.
For sure. That makes sense. And I guess, do you mind just sort of filling?
I worked for Universal for two summers. One of those was COVID. So that was super weird experience because the only time I was allowed to go into work was at 4 a.m. And so I had a very weird sleep schedule that summer. But yeah, I loved that experience. It was really fun. But I kind of worked in an area as they call it core engineering of engineering and safety, which is basically you do if anything breaks on a ride or not, if something's not working, instead of like finding the person who originally made it, they just have core engineers fix it. So basically you have to be versatile in all areas of engineering. And I had to do a lot of like SolidWorks mechanical design, and I was like designing brake pieces and I didn't know how to do that. And I think that experience of just like having to know a lot of things generally, but I wasn't ever applying my EE knowledge to like kind of the levels that we do in like upper division classes. But I don't know, like I could totally go back to them, or I could go to Disney and be so happy in that position, because you're always doing something different. You're always moving around. You're not on a desk all day. Like it's such an awesome gig. But then also a PhD and art also sounds amazing and like something I would love to do. So I don't know. I'm really excited that I get to do the progressive degree. Like I'm very grateful to USC for that kind of extra time that I get to have back from COVID. Because I think I'd be making these decisions in a space where I had access to faculty all the time who could tell me, what I should do.
And can you talk a little bit more about what you're doing this summer? So kind of an R&D role in double E.
Yeah, so they're called Araya. They're a small company that does R&D research for basically like military contractors and stuff like that. 90% of them have PhDs, so it's kind of a very well-educated group. And they do like acoustic modeling using like sound waves of space, which is a bad explanation of what they do, but it's very cool, and it's using a lot of signal processing stuff, which is what my emphasis is in EE, and a lot of like physics on top of that, which is also stuff that as electrical engineers we have to take a lot of and know a lot about. So I'm excited to kind of like use my schoolwork because I haven't been able to do that before, really.
What advice would you give to anyone kind of getting started in college or a high school senior?
I feel like something I actually do look back on and wish I was more aware of is I kind of just did a bunch of things that sounded interesting and cool. And then junior, senior year, I was trying to like put together the pieces of all the things I liked, which is challenging, but I think that it worked well because I could, if I didn't like it, it didn't have to be included in kind of my plan in life. And it was just a good experience. So I think just doing a bunch of stuff that sounds interesting to you, like joining this club and seeing if it's for you, and if it's not, then like leave. That's such a like useful thing to have later down the road, because then you have those experiences kind of under your tool belt instead of being like, oh, now I know what I want to do, let me go pursue those things. Because once you get to that point, you're like, don't like pump and dump your school knowledge. I feel like I did that a lot in high school because like I wasn't going to take and follow up to AP US history, so I didn't really need to like know all that stuff permanently. But I feel like in college, when I've done that in classes, like if I've taken a class sophomore year, I took electromagnetics in the physics department. I was like, never gonna need this again. I'm not gonna like deep learn it. I'm gonna just like take my tests and then I'll kind of forget about it. And then I had to take the EE version of electromagnetics this past year, and I was like, oh my God, I could have known all this stuff from sophomore year and like not have had such a hard time relearning it and then learning all the new stuff. So I think knowing that your courses build on each other and that it may feel like it's pointless now, but if you like linear algebra also, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
You know,
Would have been good to know that.
Yeah, like I feel like I didn't understand that. Like if I thought in college if I didn't like a class, I could just like not have to take a similar one again, but it doesn't really work that way.
Next, I spoke with Miranda, who's graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering.
Hi everyone, my name is Miranda Jernberg and I'm a senior majoring in chemical engineering from Aurora, Colorado.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And then, now if you could just give everyone an idea of kind of what you're involved in, like what have you done at USC in the past 4 years? I know it's probably a lot, but.
Yeah, such a huge question. Okay, over the last 4 years, I've been involved with the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. I've also been involved with my sorority, Kappa Alpha Theta, which I was on the executive board for junior year into my senior year. And some other involvements that I've participated in over the last 4 years include Science Outreach, which is a volunteer organization where you go teach science experiments to second and third graders in local LA classrooms. And then I think my most fun involvement was something I started junior year called USC Break On 2, and that's our Latin fusion dance team here. And basically every Tuesday, Thursday, we dance salsa and bachata and other Latin dances.
I guess we got the rundown of kind of everything you did, but not even just like involvements, just anything that you've done, like looking back on it, what do you think is kind of going to stick with you and impact you after graduation?
Yeah, definitely. I think a big thing is work in sustainability. So a big thing for me entering college and still leaving college is just how am I thinking and acting sustainably and learning more about it all the time. And I've taken so many classes at SC and I'm so grateful for each and every one of them. Things like RIT 150, Issues in Sustainability, GE called Sustainability Science in the City, the Viterbi Ethics podcast and Viterbi Conversations in Ethics. I was able to talk about climate change and the Green New Deal and sustainability, always just looking back at these ideas. And even things like the Min Family Social Entrepreneurship Challenge focuses usually pretty heavy on sustainability. So I think I'm going to come out with an even stronger understanding of kind of the interdisciplinary nature of the topic. For sure. And even like leaving even more passionate about it, I think, than when I started, because now I feel like my view is so much broader on everything that can still be done with it. So
when you think about like the things you wanted to do going into college, like what are the things you like kind of like met expectations you did do? What are the things maybe you didn't do? And then obviously, of course, there's a ton that you ended up doing that you probably didn't plan on doing. Like what's that breakdown like for you?
Definitely. Okay, I think my big 3 things entering college were that I wanted to study abroad. I wanted to work on carbon capture, and that's actually why I picked chemical engineering. And then, I think just have fun in college was my 3rd one, and that one was really open-ended, but the first 2 were really specific. Mm-hmm. And I did end up going abroad to Australia for a whole semester my sophomore year, and that was amazing. It feels like a lifetime ago with non-COVID sophomore year. Even looking back, I'm sure normal times would also feel like a long time ago, but life is so different now that I can't even imagine going abroad at this moment or planning to go abroad or prioritizing that. So that happened. Working on carbon capture didn't really happen in the capacity that I expected. I thought I would do maybe research on carbon capture or I guess take a class on it even, but there are no classes on it, so it's not like I have an option. And there's not really USC specific research labs on carbon capture either, but our senior design project for chemical engineering is actually partially a carbon capture plant.
Oh, awesome.
So it feels like that came full circle in a really cool way. And then have fun. I mean, everything about USC is fun, everything you do, whether you expect it or not.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Yeah, I think it's always interesting to sort of hear how our paths sort of maybe diverge from what we thought. But I think, a lot of things, if you set your mind to it, you can kind of check off the boxes for sure.
Yeah, I think the big thing entering college is like, have goals, but make them broad enough that they're attainable and they're easy to change. Because if they're too specific, it just sets you up for failure and discomfort when you're not hitting things that are really specific. I know they say make goals specific, but I tend to do the opposite.
Yeah. Also, kind of thinking back to high school, did you always want to study engineering?
I mean, it wasn't something I always wanted to do, but I was definitely a math and science nerd. So when I was thinking about college and what I wanted to study, automatically what's coming to my head is science, it's math, and then it's engineering. And I'm just trying to make a decision that I think would be best based on the limited knowledge I had at the time of all these different majors. And I picked chemical engineering because of sustainability. I thought there were a lot of applications in sustainability, but then I thought about other exciting things like renewable energy or even cosmetics and cosmetic engineering. So I just kind of made the jump based on what I thought was cool. But I had no idea when I picked chemical engineering that this is what it entailed or even what it would end up meaning for my college career.
How do you think your understanding of what a chemical engineer is changed since studying it? And also, I don't know, I feel like we realize so much when we're studying engineering that it's so much less about what major you are specifically and more about kind of just understanding how to learn problems. So I guess going forward, how do you think you'll apply that? Not necessarily in a professional sense, but just what are the learnings from it?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, my understanding of chemical engineering changed being that when I entered college, I kept asking everyone, so what exactly do chemical engineers do? And I would ask the older students, I'd ask my professors. I was really confused, and I was taking thermodynamics and chemistry, and I was like, people don't do this stuff as a job, so what are chemical engineers actually doing? And now that I'm a senior, almost all of my classes are more realistic of what chemical engineers do on the day-to-day. It's process control, it's looking at optimization and energy usage and stuff like that. And I think I have a better understanding of large and complex systems. I think most engineers would say that, but for chemicals, specifically chemical process systems, I think my understanding is pretty refined in that space 4 years later. But I think engineering knowledge is more than that because that's really specific and not everyone is going to go work on a chemical process doing chemical process control. You learn more so how to think and look at multiple variables and see how things are changing and how if you change one thing, it might not change another, but it's going to change this other thing drastically. So thinking in degrees and layers and observing all the information available at any given time, I think that's the real engineering benefit and thought framework.
Outside of chemical engineering, outside of the classroom, what do you think were your biggest learnings were over the past 4 years?
Ooh, yeah. Okay, I think outside of chemical engineering, everything or every topic, every major, every job or application isn't siloed. Almost everything you'll be working on is going to be intersectional with different engineers, with different types of people, with different regions of the world. You're never just going to work in your own little bucket.
Yeah.
Which I think is amazing and cool. And USC shows you that because there's so many different people and things all kind of converging in the same place.
And I guess kind of pivoting a bit, what role have relationships with people played in your experience at USC, and how do you see that sort of impacting you after graduation?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of my close friends are in engineering just because we went through it together and spent so much time in class together, working on projects in labs. And that's been cool kind of to see how different people take the same material and apply it differently and kind of pave their lives out of the material differently. Like no two of us are going to work the same exact job post college, or even going to the same grad school for the same research. So I think that's really interesting. And outside of engineering, my close friends in different majors have just showed me like cool new things to be a part of and to involve myself with. I think I got involved with social entrepreneurship because of my friends in business. And then I got interested in finance and business through my friends studying like econ math and finance and those things. So moving forward from college, I think it's super important to have like people in your circle from all different areas and I don't know, keep your mind like fresh in these different realms.
What are you doing after college? And I know this like an annoying question, but so not just in the professional sense. Like I know you have plans, so that, but also kind of just like what are you interested in doing, keeping up after college? I don't know if you have like a hobby or something that you're looking forward to or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So after college, I guess the formal thing is that I'm returning to BlackRock, the company I interned with as an ETFs global markets analyst up in San Francisco. So I'll be making the move to San Francisco in probably like late July or early August, depending on COVID stuff. And I'm super excited about that because I get to continue kind of this interest I have in finance and financial markets. But I guess something fun that I definitely want to continue up in the Bay is snowboarding. This year, since non-COVID times, we got Big Bear weekday passes as students, and we would just take days off and go to the mountains from SC. So in the Bay, I definitely want to keep doing that on weekends and kind of get acclimated to a new city through the outdoors and hike, drive, snowboard.
That's awesome. Well, I'm super excited for you. I know you'll do awesome things. But I guess beyond that, just any other last words that you want to get in about your 4 years at USC?
Yeah, I think I'm super thankful for USC and the community that it's provided. In so many ways, USC was what I expected, but it's also nothing of what I expected. There's just surprises around every corner around what it's like to live in a major city, what it's like to live around so many people in your sorority house or in your dorm, or even what it's like to be a college student in your day-to-day. It feels like a lot of days are the same, and then a lot of them are unlike anything I've ever experienced. So the environment of USC is definitely unlike anything else in the world, and I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of it for the last 4 years.
Next up, I spoke with Steven, who's graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering.
My name is Steven Douglas. I am a senior from Bentonville, Arkansas, and I'm studying aerospace engineering.
A big question, but what have you been up to for the past 4 years? Like,
if I had to summarize my 4 years in one word, it'd be research. And generally people are going to say, oh, there's just like research, like he's in a lab, like that's lab rat stuff. But no, there's a lot of research you can do about yourself, about, what you like. But I will say, from a technical standpoint, I've done research in the Dryden Wind Tunnel since the summer after my freshman year. And we work in biomimetics. So that is looking at the natural world, looking at the flight of birds, wing shapes, even going as far as whale tubercles, because whales don't swim through water, they fly, and how we can apply that to a small scale vehicle, kind of like a small drone, in the mechanical sense. So a lot of the projects we did include a lot of research on like birds, and one of the most memorable ones was probably working on this splayed tail feather. And that was something that, how can we keep stability and control in an aircraft if you get rid of the vertical stabilizer, which is your control arm? You need that, right? And especially at low speeds that we were testing at, what could we manipulate the tail to be like, to be asymmetric, to be symmetric, angles, this and that, to still keep control. So yeah, a lot of research. I also worked in the water tunnel or water channel for a little bit there, studying some porous wings, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of 3D printing. Outside of my research, I was in AIAA, which is the Professional Club for Aerospace Engineers. I also played club baseball for all 4 years here, which was great. It brought my passion to school. It was for, when you have that really bad test, go to the batting cage for 15 minutes and blow off some steam. Got to travel with that as well. I was also like vice president for a while, which was super fun. And then I was also in a social fraternity called Chi Phi. So that was fun. Got to meet a lot of great people. And that helped me from day one kind of build my foundation, my support system with baseball. Let's see, what else have I been up to? That's it, a lot of engineering.
So kind of pivoting a little bit and I guess like jumping back to high school, did you always want to be an engineer?
Yeah, I'm one of those lucky people that I knew exactly what I want to be from 8th grade. So 8th grade, we had like a little intro to engineering course, and they said choose an industry, right? And at that point, I have loved planes my entire life. I job shadowed pilots in 7th grade so I could go on flights. I sat at airports for like amusement parks to me. And I would always sit at the wing seat of airplanes because like I want to look at the wing. Sure, it's cool to be high up, but like you're 35,000 feet up. What are you going to see at the ground? The things you want to see are at the wing. So I always made sure. And to this day, my mom books my flights right next to the wing so I can look at it just because that's my passion, right? So in 8th grade, I had this passion for airplanes. I'm in this engineering class. You smack them together, you get aerospace engineering. And as soon as I did that research project, it was like, this is cool. And as like I progressed throughout like my high school career, I always knew that I wanted to do something like kind of like for the nation. Like I wanted to give back in a way that I could give back, right? And that's engineering to a T. We are solving tomorrow's problems today to have a better future for the whole world. And so that kind of was my passion. And now I can say, I'm going to work in aerospace to protect lives and save lives, and keep our troops safe, essentially. That's the way that I am kind of thinking of it, because I'm going into like, I guess, defense contracting at this point. So yeah, I always knew, not always, but I always knew I want to be around airplanes. And then 8th grade, I was like engineering, and it just really molded me to be aerospace engineering. Never once did I falter from it either throughout college or anything. So I don't have any cool stories of switching majors or anything fun to share on that. I've just been nose to the grindstone, if you will.
Well, you're passionate.
If people are listening, they can't see it, but I have a 6-foot glider sitting right behind me.
And a lot of Yankees stuff.
What was that?
I said, and some Yankees stuff.
Oh yeah, and that beach ball is King Flogna. So there's my life.
all that. That's fun. So kind of again, like thinking kind of from the high school perspective from now, I think it's interesting to sort of compare like our expectations of what college was going to be to like what it was.
Right. So I can remember the USC admissions counselor coming to my high school, and I only went to one admission counselor meeting, and it was for USC just because it fit into my schedule. I was like, California, whoa, and my parents have always joked with me like, you're a California kid. And I always told them since I was like 5 years old, I was like, I want to be some beach boy in California, whatever. But the things that I asked them about were, hey, can I do research? Is there a club baseball team? And like, do I have a life as an engineer? Can I do more than engineering? Can I like be social and stuff? And so, yeah, I checked all those boxes, weirdly enough. But the thing that I kind of regret most is staying inside the USC bubble. Like you can ask me any geography question about Southern California, California in general. I will not know. Where is, like, I don't know where Torrance or Redondo Beach is in relation to where we are at all. I never took that step to go be a citizen of Los Angeles. I was just a student at USC living in Los Angeles, if that makes sense. Because my weekends were full of just like relaxing and hanging out with my friends, but they weren't full of like the exploration part, which I think is something that if you ask me my biggest regret, I think that'd be my biggest regret is I just want to do more. I wanted to go to like Mammoth and ski or something. I never did any of those things. I'm going to Joshua Tree for my first time ever tomorrow. So
you're doing them now. You're doing them.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think the slap in the face of here's your laundry you have to do along with buying groceries and also taking classes and also trying to find your feet in college. And by the way, you have to make new friends and you have to try and get jobs all the time. So, that's obviously like, whoa, it's hard. It's like everybody says it, right? But until you experience it, that's the biggest learning curve is you're on your own. Good luck, So that's it.
Well, on that note, what are your plans after graduation? I know, loaded question, but then also maybe just what are you looking forward to after graduation?
After graduation, I'm looking forward to doing nothing for a couple months. So I'm going to travel, go on a road trip with my brother, kind of as like the bon voyage to academia, if you will. So yeah, I'll travel a bit, and then I start full time at Northrop Grumman in innovation systems in August. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Exactly what I really wanted to do, got the dream job. So that's really great. At the same time, I'm going to be finishing up my master's online. So I will be graduating my master's in 2023. Yeah, the words don't fit together right to me for some reason. 2023 sounds like still like 2010 to me. But anyways, yeah, I'm working full time for Northrop Grumman starting in August, part of the rotation program. So if I want to move around, I can. But yeah, looking forward to that and living away from campus to kind of get out of that bubble I was talking about and force me to
Still in LA.
Yeah, still in LA, in Redondo Beach at Space Park. So they have Northrop Grumman has a whole campus there that's got like a gym, a track, like a cafe. It's got a lot of stuff. And I'm going to try and live in the Hermosa Beach area, which is the typical, my parents thought I was going to become some beach bum in California deal, but it is what it is. And I'm happy.
All the dreams are coming true.
Yeah, checking things off, checking like boxes.
Next, I spoke with Christina, who's graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Engineering.
Hi, I'm Christina. I am a senior majoring in environmental engineering. I am originally from Los Angeles.
Amazing. Thanks, Christina. And then this is sort of a big question, but like, what did you do over the past 4 years? What did you spend your time doing? What did you get involved in at USC?
I've definitely kind of come and gone in student organizations. I had my hand in a lot of pots, and it was just really cool experiences that I got from my freshman year to now. I've been involved in a sorority called Alpha Omega Epsilon, which is a professional and social sorority for women in STEM. So I was president of that part of my junior and senior year, which is really exciting. And they're still some of my closest friends that I'll keep after graduation. I've also been a part of various professional societies. When I was a mechanical engineer, I joined the Associated Students of Mechanical Engineering, I believe they're called, and then chemical engineering, AICE, the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, and now as an environmental engineer, also I got all of the bases covered. I'm president of the American Academy of Environmental Engineers and Scientists, so that's fun. I also was a big part of the Society of Women Engineers. From my freshman year, I was an ambassador, and sophomore and junior year, I was on the Student Affairs Committee and eventually became the vice president of the committee. My senior year, though, I'm taking a little break from that. But yeah, I've had a lot of different experiences. They've all been great.
Now that we've kind of gotten like the sum. Oh, you've also done a lot of research though. You haven't talked.
Yes. Oh my gosh. The list is long. I was a research assistant my freshman, sophomore, junior year. Don't know why I picked that order. In the Smith Research Lab, which is in the environmental engineering department. And we studied emerging wastewater treatment technologies. So I was able to do research on specifically something called an anaerobic membrane bioreactor, which filters out wastewater and produces methane for energy use, and then clean water that can hopefully be reused.
Awesome. And you've worked a lot while you've done all of these things.
I've had a couple internships in environmental engineering consulting. I'm currently working at Brown and Caldwell, which is I'm working out of the Irvine office, and we just do construction support and design of water and wastewater treatment plants.
Awesome. And kind of now you've gotten the rundown, you did so much.
It sounds like a lot. As a freshman, I would hear these like seniors list off super long lists of things and be like, I can't even imagine. And now I'm like looking at myself like, who is this person?
You've done a lot though. You really have. So it's awesome. And but thinking about all those things you've done when you reflect on the past 4 years, like what do you think has impacted you a lot, and what will that impact be on you after graduation?
I definitely think, like, as great as the learning opportunities and everything has been, the biggest impact on me has been the people I've met. I've made a lot of friends that have helped shape me be the person I am today. Like, I'll go to them when I have a problem or when I'm, thinking about something, and they'll just like help me figure things out. Because I think one thing that people don't really think about is when you go to college, you're not just like getting a degree, you're also becoming a person, because we start out super young at like 18, and then I'm graduating at 22. So definitely the people I've met have had a huge part on who I am today and will have the biggest impact after I graduate.
What do you think were the biggest challenges for you?
I think I just changed my mind a lot, and I really wasn't prepared for that. I used to hear the statistic applying to college of like, oh, you'll change your major. Everyone changes their major once or twice in college. And I would kind of laugh at that and be like, not me. Mechanical engineering is where I'm going to stay. So I really wasn't prepared to be flexible in that sense. And then I came to college and I took a couple classes and realized it wasn't what I thought it was. My passions lied elsewhere. So the biggest challenge was just letting myself be flexible and letting myself like explore interests outside of what I initially thought I had and just go with the flow of what I was passionate about. And it thankfully led me here to environmental engineering. So
what were your biggest learnings in college? I know that's a big question.
This is kind of not necessarily engineering related, but just working with people and communication and like teamwork. From being president of student organizations and vice president of committees and like just being in group projects for classes, you spend a lot of time working with people and figuring out effective ways to communicate, make sure everyone's on the same page, everyone's excited about something. So the biggest learning thing was just not to come into everything like, you have to treat these things carefully, and those are definitely skills I've learned. You can't just run into a project and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this, this, and this. You have to like plan it out. You have to work with your group. You have to be flexible about things. So that was the biggest learning thing for me.
Now, kind of going back to sort of your high school self, I'm curious of a couple things. So first, like, did you always want to be an engineer? I know you said at the beginning you were like really set on mechanical engineering, and I know that's changed, but yeah, did you always want to be an engineer?
I knew I always wanted to be in STEM just because I've always liked math, but I feel like engineering came as sort of a consequence of me being involved in robotics and me also liking chemistry, biology, not so much physics, but physics more than history. So I never really saw myself as like, yes, I'm going to be like a engineer one day. This is my title. I'm going to, take all the exams to be an engineer, and I'm going to go to conferences as an engineer. I never thought things like that, but I did know I wanted to do something where I could apply my interest in math and my love for science. So this just came kind of naturally, I guess.
One thing I'm interested in too, I think sometimes coming into college, we have like, I want to accomplish X, Y, and Z things. And oftentimes, those aren't the things we do, which is not a bad thing at all. But I'm just curious for you, like, what were the things you expected of USC, or like the things you wanted to do when you came in versus like the things you did? What does that comparison look like for you?
Man, it's different. I never saw myself joining a sorority or getting like super involved in student organizations like I have. I thought that would be more of a background thing, whereas it's really been at like the forefront of the things I do. I knew going into college that I really wanted to do research, and that's one of the reasons I chose USC, because there was like no barrier on you have to have been a student for this long or doing this stuff before research. So I've definitely accomplished that. I've been in a research lab that I was able to create a poster out of and present at a conference, or not at a conference, but the USC Undergrad Research Symposium. So that was a really, really cool experience, and definitely something that I'll value when I graduate, because that's what I set out to do going to college. One thing that has shifted though is like post-grad plans. I knew I really wanted to do a PhD eventually. And I thought, I'm not going to take a gap year or anything. I'm just going to jump right in. But obviously everyone's plans have changed with COVID, and I really don't want to spend another year in classes. The burnout is real. So that's changed too, but that's still down the line. I think one thing I've learned too is like, we're young, we have time. You don't have to do every single thing you want now. Just like get a taste of what you want in college and then see what you can do later.
So I guess on that topic, What are your plans after graduation? And I do want you to say, what you're doing, but also I don't want to restrict it to that. Like, just what are you looking forward to doing once you're done here?
I have signed an offer with Brown and Caldwell, so environmental engineering consulting. It'll be a really cool chance to apply the things that I've learned and to get a really good perspective of the industry. But I do hope that a couple years from now, hopefully after the burnout goes away and I can just have some fun working, I can apply to graduate school, get a master's, probably a PhD as well. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to, but I'm kind of just going with the flow right now and just until everything calms down in the world, sticking with this job, having a good time, learning a lot.
And then I'm also curious, like, I know you have a lot of hobbies, so, but I'm curious, like, what are the things you like to do that you're going to stick with doing, or like anything you've come to really enjoy at USC that was like unexpected or not engineering?
Man, I can't say crafts, can I?
You can say crafts. Why couldn't you say crafts?
Crafting has been so fun. And I've made friends through USC. Like there's a lot of people are into knitting. A lot of people are into embroidery. My sorority has a Slack channel called Cross Stitch Crew, where we just post photos of things that we do. So that's definitely something I've had fun with. I feel like it helped me de-stress a lot with engineering. Like, not to discredit my class attention span, but this morning during my lecture, I was just knitting a blanket. So I've definitely picked up fun things like that along the way. Video games. Animal Crossing was huge to connect people at the beginning of quarantine. Just fun things like that.
Is there anything you wish you would have done at USC? Like, if you had another year, like, what would you do, kind of?
100,000%, because I was accepted to a research abroad program junior year. I was going to go to Beijing and do research at the Tsinghua school. And that was through Viterbi. I was so excited. And then we started hearing about this thing called coronavirus, and that program was canceled and everything shut down. So I definitely wish I got the experience to study abroad, research abroad, intern abroad, something where I could go somewhere new and try out like a different experience. So I wish if I had another year, I would probably do that. If I knew I was so interested in it earlier in my time at college, I probably would have applied my sophomore year or freshman year even to try and get into those programs. So if you know you want to do something, don't put it off till your senior year, because you never know when a pandemic will hit. Do it as early as you can so you can have that experience under your belt and just move on to the next one.
That's such good advice, and I feel like that's been a big learning for me too. Like, if you want to do something, like, do it now. Senior
year comes faster than you think, honestly.
It literally feels like yesterday that we were freshmen.
Yeah, and now we're like graduating. Yeah. So.
And finally, I spoke with Luz, who's graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Computer Engineering and Computer Science.
Hi, my name is Luz Camacho, and I'm a senior studying computer engineering and computer science from Bell Gardens, California.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Luz. And kind of what have you been involved in your 4 years at USC?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've worn a lot of different hats over my 4 years, which I think has been really nice. Some stuff I've stuck with, some stuff I didn't really stick with all 4 years, but that's okay, because you learn what you really, really like over a course of time, and then what you want to spend the most time on. So I guess starting from the beginning, I've always been really involved in a bunch of orgs that fall under the Center of Engineering Diversity. I was really involved with SWE. Did that for about 2 years, was like kind of on their leadership team, helping plan events and help a lot with the logistical stuff. And I was also really involved with SHIP, also kind of on that leadership team. Really that role is really more focused on community building, like getting new people to come to events and all that fun stuff. I've also spent a lot of time working for the EE department. I've been a course producer for EE 109, I want to say for about 2 years now. So I think that's a really sweet gig, because I love working with like embedded systems, and leveraging some of my EE knowledge is nice. And I've been dedicating a lot of time to computer science and like software engineering stuff. And I guess outside of the classroom, I've done a couple of internships now. I had an internship at NASA JPL, at Facebook, at Google, and at Microsoft. And I'm happy to report that one of them has turned into a full-time job with me accepting Microsoft for an offer for software engineering coming later this year, I want to say. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you've done a lot. What do you think the biggest challenges were for you over your time at USC?
I think for me, it was about finding balance. I think there's definitely a couple times over the course of my 4 years where I was doing a lot of rewarding things, but physically unable to keep up. So I did get burnt out a couple times. And every time that I got burnt out, it was an opportunity for kind of me to orient myself and kind of choose what I'm going to prioritize coming forward. And every time I got burnt out, it took even longer for me to get burnt out next time because I internalized a lot of lessons from those sort of things. So I think I'm happy to say that, I am going to approach graduation with a more or less healthy work-life balance, which I think is a skill in and of itself. I think that would definitely be one of my biggest takeaways.
You sort of answered this already, but I guess kind of what are your biggest learnings from your time over the past year, your biggest takeaways going into what's next for you post-grad?
Yeah. I already spoke about the burnt out and like kind of finding that work-life balance. But aside from that, I think something that I've really gotten comfortable with over the past 4 years is just kind of talking about myself. I don't think I really knew how to do that freshman year. I really, really, really struggled with imposter syndrome. Still kind of do, but not as much. Where I just this sense of like, oh man, I haven't done as much as my peers here. Maybe I don't belong here. Psych, you do. As much as you hate to internally admit it to yourself, you're like, oh darn, maybe I do have rights. And I feel like that kind of confidence has I don't know. It's been so nice to have because I know I didn't have it freshman year. And it's definitely like a lesson that you need to, like that confidence you want to take into the workplace too, whether that comes in the form of just like, giving yourself good reviews and, applauding yourself for your own work. Because when you leave school, you suddenly get a lot less validation about the stuff that you're doing, because you're an actual adult. So confidence is what I want to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I think it's super important because I think there's a line obviously between kind of being full of yourself, but then it is so important in the workplace to say, I did a good job on this, right?
You're always gonna be your biggest advocate for sure.
Yeah, you have to advocate for yourself. And I think kind of understanding the difference of like going into things with a mindset that you have a lot to learn. You're not necessarily an expert, but that like you're gonna do a good job is super important. I guess just looking back on your 4 years too, like what was your favorite thing? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like, and this is true for the whole conversation as well. It doesn't have to be like an involvement or like something professional, like maybe it was eating at a certain restaurant or something like that.
So a more serious one would be I really, really have enjoyed all the people that I've met for the past 4 years. I I brag a lot about like having a diverse friend group, but I do have a diverse friend group. I get so many different opinions, so many different experiences by just all these people that I've met. So I feel like I've met a wealth of people, and that's something that I'm really, really grateful for. And in terms of like, something more frivolous, I honestly think one of the best ramen places in LA is like 5 minutes away from USC. I think eBay's is a fantastic ramen place, and it does not get the recognition it deserves. I've been eating at a lot of ramen places in LA, and I'm telling you, eBay's is really, really solid. And it's 5 minutes away from campus. So
wow.
Hey, that's a win.
Pro tip for all the new people coming to USC.
Oh yeah.
I have to say, when I asked you this question, when I was thinking about like just like fun memories, I don't know if you remember oh gosh, I think it was our sophomore year when we went to Six Flags for VSA.
Yes, I do. And you and I being like, oh, we care. I have a picture of us on that wooden roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I looked like I wanted to die from the beginning, but you were just talking to yourself on the way up.
Yeah.
And I had my eyes closed, so all I was getting was your narration. Like, oh my God, it's so high. Oh my God, that's a steep drop. And I had my eyes closed. I'm like, thank you, Audrey.
That's so funny. Okay. So I guess what are your plans after graduation professionally? I don't know. I guess is there like something you've like started at USC, like a hobby or something that you're going to continue with, or just like kind of what are you looking forward to doing just for fun?
Yeah. So such a fun, again, really excited going to Seattle, joining Microsoft full-time as a software engineer on their cloud plus AI platform. So that means a lot of things, which is exciting because all of those things are cool. In terms of what plans for the future are, I think I do want to come and get a master's degree at some point, just because I want that second degree. I would also be the first one in my family to ever get that second degree. I would already be one of the first ones to get the first degree, so the bachelor's. So getting the master's would be like raising the bar some more. So I would like to do that. So master's in computer science is definitely what I'm looking at, but not right now because I'm a little tired from school. In terms of like hobbies that I want to keep going, I started, I think I really kind of started delving into hiking, like actually like sometime during the pandemic, I'd be just like, I need to go outside. So I started hiking more, and Washington has some gorgeous trails. I want to be super granola. I want to be outdoorsy. I want to be driving an SUV. Mountain biking is something I want to try. Because I love biking and the mountains are cool. So why not put them together and go mountain biking? Okay. So I think I'm trying to be more outdoorsy, and I think Washington is going to set me up for success in this regard.
Is there anything you've done at USC, or is there anything you wish you would have done at USC? And then not from like a regret standpoint, but like look at it as a standpoint of if you had another year or something, like what would you do?
Something that I came into USC with no computer science background. So I barely was figuring out what coding was freshman year. But some of my peers came in with like knowing computer science principles and knowing subsets of computer science that they were really interested in and could immediately get involved with research in. And I found that I really liked, computer vision and like specifically like graphics and like real-time like systems, maybe real-time rendering, pretty late in my CS career. By late, I mean like junior year. And then by then I was like, do I want to get involved with the research lab? Like how I'm already involved in like 5 other things. Like how I don't know if I could do it. Like who would I talk to? Would they even want me? Because I like, they like, you typically want undergrads that, are willing to spend more time with the lab and have more years to spend there. So I'm like, no, I don't know. So in essence, if I had another year, I think, and if I knew I had that other year, I would definitely try to try to do a little bit of research, because I feel like that is a very, I don't know, you can't always get research experience depending on which school you go to. And USC has so much money and resources dedicated to research. I thought it was a little bit of a shame that I never like dipped my toes into it. But it's okay. There's always grad school, and there's always research that you can be doing in industry.
Totally. I guess sort of on in the same vein, last question, just like what would your advice be for incoming freshmen or people starting college?
Just take risks by trying things that you're not 100% sure about. I think, especially when it came to my like internships, the first internship that I got was at NASA JPL, and I got that like second semester freshman year. And so like that was a tough thing to even accept, because like, oh, I know it's a job, but it's a job at NASA. Like, do I even know enough to like work at NASA? And like, I'm working alone. I have to commute 45 minutes to get to work. Oh, it's just, there's so much stuff, like so much baggage of like internal baggage and logistical baggage, but I just did it. I'm so happy that I did it. And and that, you know, it was a struggle to juggle work and, you know, school and commutes and technical things I'm doing at work, with like a bunch of classes that I was taking. But I think it was so worth it, and it set me up for success. And even if I wasn't like 100% in love with my project, it taught me more about things that I like and don't like. And, you know, every experience, if you're in the right mindset, is going to teach you something, even if you don't necessarily end up liking it at the end of the time. But nothing's a waste of time. It's basically what I'm saying. So take a couple risks, dip your toes in a lot of pools, and chart your path accordingly.
All right, and excellent. Well, thank you to all of the VSA seniors. I know, hopefully you get the sense of this in the episode, but I've become good friends with this group of people, and it's just really exciting to see all the different things we're doing after graduation. And I think everyone's off to good places. So
it's very exciting. Thank you for putting together these final words, especially as everyone's kind of in a whole different state. And it's great to hear that, you know, regardless of some crazy times, some things remain the same, which is students find their success, they find their next steps. And it seems a little sad, as we talked about in the beginning, but it is off to bigger and better things. And I'm excited to see what all of you will be doing in the coming years, and excited to remain in contact, because as I've told you all before, you never stop working. And now you get to become alumni ambassadors, and we get to have you on the podcast back again in a couple of years to tell us what you've been doing.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone back on the podcast for a reunion episode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I look forward to seeing it. Thank you. Thank you for this episode. Really appreciate it.